you a business owner looking for real advice and input? You're in the right place. From concept to launch to growth, funding, and beyond. Welcome to Startup Hustle with your hosts. One once sold a business for $150 million. The other, the author of $1 Million Bedroom. Here are your hosts of Startup Hustle, Matt DeCoursey and Matt Watson.
1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. 'Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it.
And we're back. Another episode of Startup Hustle. Matt DeCoursey here with Jay Lockett, who will be sitting in for Matt Watson, who is in our office in the Philippines today. Jay, what's up?
What's up, man?
No, just a couple of things. Got to do a little housekeeping before we get too far into this. First off, today's episode of Startup Hustle is brought to you by Fullscale.io. We can help you build your development teams quickly and affordably. And yes, I do own that business. I also want to give a shout out to I Am the B1. Thanks for the amazing feedback and review on Apple. It's talking about how the two favorite things that they love on a podcast is getting inspired and learning something new. You guys can read all about that when you leave us a great review. We'd love to hear that, and we'll give you a shout out. So Jay Lockett, your company, J Fabworks, where you currently are the CEO, the janitor, the social media manager, and the HR generalist. Is this also true?
You know, most days, yes. Most days, yes.
Well, at any business, as in any startup and anything new, we got to wear a lot of hats. But you're in the metal fabrication and art creation business.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so J Fabworks is metal fabrication and welding, whether it be repair or just fabrication of anything that just essentially has to do with metal. So I've had little old ladies come in and have me fix their 1,000-year-old stool, or I've had contractors reach out and be like, hey, we need a beam welded in place of this construction plan that we're doing.
So that's pretty straightforward, but that's not what you're passionate about. Well, you are on some level, but what really gets you excited is the art you create, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The art is a passion, and I might go on a rant here, but
Do it.
The art is where my heart is, because the art is, so one of my biggest fears is taxes, which I know that's everybody's, but the other one is being forgotten. So this day and age we live in, technology and just the day in the world moves so quickly that if you aren't yelling at someone or cussing someone out, or, you know, making a big fuss to where you are the center of the spotlight, essentially a day to maybe 5 hours later, you're just another period in history. And so with that, with my art, I'm trying to be impactful on the world while also bringing joy to everyone around me that can be talked about for generations to come.
So for those of you listening, you know I love it when you're interactive. So grab that phone or open a browser and go to stainlessfloral.com. You can also check out the gram and go to @stainlessfloral. While you're there, you can see pictures of us if you go to @Startup Hustle Podcasts. And we're also on, check us out on YouTube so you can see our talking heads. But we're going to jump forward a little bit here, because when we talk about doing art, and art's subjective, like some people are like, yeah, that's art. And some people are like, that's not art. And there's a lot of different things. But you make some, right now you're working on some big things, one of which you told me, well, let's talk about the big flower.
Okay. So with me being impactful, I'm actually working with the city of Kansas City, the Parks and Rec Department, on building a 10 to 15 foot stainless steel rose sculpture that will be a big piece that could have lighting on it, have engravings on it, a message on it that kind of caters to the community around it, and also just be a piece that is nothing you've ever seen before.
Now, there's some other stuff with that. You mentioned, now those were for sale?
the sculptures.
Or they required a donation or?
So right now, the first one is essentially a gift to the city.
Okay.
And so with that, it kind of establishes a relationship with the city and also allows me to kind of show proof of concept.
Now, but we talk about creating something that's eternal.
Mm-hmm.
And while records are meant to be broken,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't there something else associated with that?
Yeah, before that, it was, I made actually seven of these $250,000 roses. And
there's the number. Because by the way, I think it's important to point this out because, we're talking, I think people are visualizing a metal rose and you're thinking like the size of an actual rose, not a $250,000.
Yeah. So the $250,000 ones, if you are on the Stainless Floor website, they are kind of a tabletop item and they are essentially made of titanium glass, platinum, and they have 4 2-carat diamonds on them. Also, if you were to buy one, I will actually deliver them to you personally anywhere in the world. And you'll also get a certificate from the Guinness Book of World Records for the world's most expensive artificial flower.
Boom.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I'm not sure that that's a title I'm going to hold anytime soon. So, now you said you made how many of those?
7.
Have you sold one yet?
I have not.
Soon, right?
Soon. And what's funny is the thing in my research and just trying to get into those communities, it's extremely tough because those are very close-knit communities, very closed off, and they are very verbal.
You talking to art community or?
The wealthy community and the art community.
Okay.
And so it's more of I don't want to say it's a buddy system, but it is a buddy system of, my buddy says, hey, this is cool. Let me look at it. And then,
well, that was the comment. So I have some history with art and I've actually learned a little bit about metal fabrication, largely through the people that made our lovely Startup Hustle sign here in the studio.
I like it.
Yeah. The sign, everyone loves the sign. It changes colors too. We should change the color just so we can it's been green for too long. So we'll go with, there we go.
I need one of these in my bedroom.
So it's the sign is it's striking because it's a large piece of aluminum. It's 4 feet wide, but it was made through some pretty interesting technology. In regards to art, at one point I owned part of an art business, and there was I basically funded a painter and really high end stuff, and we sold some paintings, $3-4 grand. And some of these, when I was in some of these galleries, they had sculptures, which on some, I guess you're in the sculpture category in some regards. Is that true?
Yes.
So with that, but they're subjective because, sculptures are big in many cases. So you might have to keep it outside or just different stuff. And I was talking to one of the gallery owners, and they don't exactly move fast. Art doesn't either, but so much of it is just, it's taken in by one person thinks it's the greatest thing they've ever seen. And one person's like, yeah, I'm not fucking paying for that.
Yeah. I get a lot of that when I kind of tell people about the $250,000 roses. They're like, oh, that's cool. Not for me. And
yeah, well, sure. But now I did learn one thing about buying a $250,000 rose.
What's that?
You need to have a $250,000.
Yeah, that too.
So that said, I mean, and you probably need to have a hell of a lot more than that, because if you have 250 and that's all you buy, well,
true.
Yeah, maybe not the greatest thing, but these levels. So the thing is with the art though is there's a level of exclusivity. You can't was making 7 of them too many?
No. What kind of the backstory on it is what I was just thinking about the regular roses, and I was like, I want to make something that's just so fucking crazy that nobody would even they would have to step to me and be like, hey man, I really want that. I'd be like, yeah, get out of here. No way. But I just wanted to just make it so insane. There's no way that regular person would get it. It'd have to be a 1%er.
Sure. That
just wanted something so exclusive, so handmade, so catered to them that there's nothing like it in the world.
Most people that are going to buy, you're in the 1% category for anybody that's going to buy most original art. Meaning there's a difference between collecting prints and like the original.
Mm-hmm.
And, even, I mean, original paintings, well, I'm talking like high quality stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even from unknown artists, but things that are really high quality, you're in thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that typically people aren't spending that kind of money on art unless
Mm-hmm.
it's something they're super passionate about, or
Right.
they have a lot of money. I mean,
Right.
it's just the reality of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, with that, that's a thing too. It's like,
and I think most people don't understand with art that it is, to a regular person, it's just like, oh, it's a painting or a sculpture or whatever. But the thing is art actually is essentially equity. And so
can be, yeah. And then some of it too. So I own I think 35 original paintings.
Mm-hmm.
And this is high quality stuff. And I have a kind of an attachment to it because a lot of the pieces are they're figurative.
Mm-hmm.
And they're based off of. Have you ever heard of Fabian Perez?
Sounds familiar.
He's a well-known painter, but he, the guy that I was in business with was an apprentice to him.
Mm-hmm.
So his art is similar, but a lot of it had like a woman standing at a bar and you see her back and her hair or something like that, or different stuff like that. But, and some of in order to create some of this art, a lot of these painters, they work off of photo reference. Mm-hmm. So my wife was actually the model in some of them. So I have an attachment to some of the, I have attachments to some of the paintings, and they're like really, I mean, these are paintings that like realistically are $4 or $5 grand, maybe more in the gallery, but I wouldn't ever really want to sell them.
That's cool. And that's
because it's my wife. And now the ones that aren't, okay, sure, maybe, but there's an attachment there, and that's the whole thing. And I learned with things like figurative art. So you could have a painting and like show the model's face, or you could not. And the ones that didn't show the face or just a hint of it were the ones that sold really well because the buyer pictured whoever they wanted to be there. And it wasn't like, so yeah, it was just like, but it's subjective, and it became meaningful to that person. So I think that the $250,000 rose is in that.
Yeah,
it's same category.
It's, and kind of how I cater it to whomever is that it's just not the rose. So if you get one, you get an engraving. So whether it be a name, date, phrase, anniversary, whatever it is, that can be engraved on it.
Seems like a reasonable add-on for the price.
Yeah. You get an engraving on it. And so also just for the rose, you get a handmade polished mirror finish box that I made that's lined with red felt. Also, the box gets engraved with, to my beloved 1 of 7, 2 of 7. This is the product, and it'll get put in a really high quality wood box that I bring to you in person.
Are all 7 different?
Yes, because they're all handmade.
Okay. So, but I mean, do they noticeably look different too? Like
if you have an eye for detail, yes.
If I bought all 7 of them. Because you got to have a bouquet. I mean, you got to do it all. Right?
You just got to flex the muscles.
But I'll tell you what, though, and it sounds odd to say this to some listening, though, but I could see someone buying all of them or only one.
I think
because there's merit to like having them all. Like if you believe in it in that regard, like you corner the market. And like I learned that with paintings too. Like people want a series. People will buy the whole series because they have that series. And like I thought it was so interesting with paintings because here you have this one original and it looks amazing, and then it's like it gives baby products. It like has birth to like all these different levels and layers of prints. And the quality of the print, and they're number 1 of 20, and then they're signed by the artist, and then there's ones that are like, I don't know, it goes all the way down. But the crazy thing is you end up, if done well and the artist is known and you can actually sell the stuff, like they get a couple $100 grand or more out of one painting.
Oh yeah.
Which some of these guys make these paintings in a couple of days too, and they look great.
Sometimes they just get really good at it. And it's just like it's done.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of what people are buying, that you're good at it.
Right.
So, how long does it take to make a $250,000 rose?
So you are looking at if someone were to approach me, it's 2 weeks.
Okay,
2 weeks, and the most time problematic area is because of the diamonds. So they're 2 carats, and they are VVS ones, and the clarity is, I think it's IH or I, and they are the jeweler that I kind of collaborated with this, he has 1, and he has to source the other 3, and usually they are either in California, New York, or internationally. And so that's the biggest issue is sourcing those, because 2-carat diamonds is not something you keep on hand. And so, or at least you have one of, which is what I was told. And
Interesting. So what's the process of getting the Guinness Book of World Records to actually issue you a record?
So the process on that is I went through all the hoops on this $250,000 rose. I had to get an insurance policy on this $250,000 rose. And I had to insurance, photographic evidence, physical evidence, pictures, videos, a bio, the description sheets, material lists. And the last thing that I got hung up on that they were really needing was that it was real. So someone had to have bought one.
I see.
And so till then, once someone buys one, then the certificate will be issued to whomever.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, extremely.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I would. For those of you listening, what are you a world record holder at? Just kind of weird. The Guinness Book's also known for having, different weird stuff or things. I feel like, God, and you said that was artificial floral?
Yeah, artificial rose or flower, I think it is. And it's, at first I went looking for like a most expensive rose or something. And I think there was already a record for that. And it was something that I was just like, what, really? Okay. And so
I was going to say, because while that sounds like a lot of money, because of the common nature of floral or flowers and them being gift worthy, and it's the reason that I just kind of sought after that, other than just making something just purely insane. It was just a sheer fact of that. That's just another footprint left in history by me. So where did you start learning metal fabrication?
So, like all good stories, it was because of a girl. And I was talking to this girl at the time, and I could tell that we were in a relationship, and it was kind of on the fritz. And it was coming up on Valentine's Day. And I was like, man, I want to make her something that's going to be freaking cool. She won't leave me and, be good. So I started playing around with some scrap stainless steel pieces at this plant I was working at the time. And I kind of put them in an orientation. I was like, oh, that's cool. Oh, let me try this. Let me try that. Let me try this. And then I had a rose. They don't look like what they look like now. But she took it. She liked it. She still left me. But I actually kind of have to thank her, because now I'm making them still to this day. That was 6 years ago. And so that kind of got my start into the metal fabrication world, and just learning how to weld and fabricate just by getting jobs that taught me the industry standard, and just using my imagination, and just kept going.
So I'm going to give you some relationship advice.
Okay.
Don't typically try to learn a skill trade, because you're worried she's going to leave you. You never know. Like this worked out for Jay. It appears to be working out for Jay. But if you think that your girlfriend's going to leave you, do not decide to become a carpenter because you want to build her a house, because you think that she'll stay. It's also it's not advisable. And the reason why is it takes a while to learn a skill trade. So if you're worried that she's going to leave you, it's probably going to happen by the time you figure out what the fuck you're doing. So yes, that is the Matt DeCourcy's
advice,
relationship advice. Yes. Okay. Coming from a guy who's been married twice, both to women named Jill.
Oh, geez.
So, I was making a comment the other night. I said, man, I am so much better at marriage the second try. Like I'm doing it much better the second lap through. But okay. So
do you have any kids by chance?
I do. I got a couple of them.
You do?
Yeah. I'm an old dad too. My kids, I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I say old dad just because I'm 44, and some of my friends that are my age are like, yeah, my kids just graduated from college. I'm like, dude, I changed a diaper today. My
daughter's 2, and it's a heck of a process. I'm 28 as of October 17th.
See, that's within the normal. That's within the, yeah.
And so it's fun being a parent. I it's funny you say you're an old dad because I actually created a Facebook group in Kansas City called Bad Dads of Kansas City. And so it's actually created it because of I was with my ex, and I always like used to get pissed off because she'd be on her phone and she'd be in her mom group, which is called Bad Dads of or Bad Moms of Joco or Kansas City. And I was like, man, dads need a place to, run our mouths and talk shit and talk about girls. And
I thought that was just called everywhere.
Well, this is online now.
Oh,
Facebook.
okay. I see.
And so
we're using technology for what we've been doing for all of human history. Okay,
correct.
I see.
But it's fun being a parent. My daughter, we kind of go on and off on days with my daughter, and she was with me last night, and I took her to school this morning, and she is she is the center of my world, and ultimately the one that I'm kind of building this generational wealth per se for, because I just want her to have a better life than I did growing up, and just to have the opportunities to do whatever she needs to do or wants to do.
And that's admirable. I commend you for that. With that, though, you did a lot of that with we mentioned like learning a skill trade or a craft. I mean, welding is one of those things that not many people know how to do. Mm-hmm. And it's same with metal fabrication. As I was pointing this out earlier, you look at the Startup Hustle sign that we've made. This thing started as a sheet of stainless steel or aluminum, one of the two.
Yeah, quarter-inch aluminum.
And it's thick, and it is carved to precision with a water jet, which is water. Mm-hmm. High pressure water cutting through thick metal. Mm-hmm. And that's a very precise thing. I was done with a very expensive machine, and that was programmed to do such. Mm-hmm. Not always the case and not always accessible for people. So does your art exist for you now as a welding torch and metal? I mean, and a couple of like other things because the water jet machine, that's an expensive piece of machinery.
Yeah. I think they are $500,000.
They're a lot. I don't know how much they are. They're a lot. Yeah. And I imagine you can like rent time on them and get people to do stuff. So is some of that where do you also talk about titanium and stuff like that? You mess it up, you don't get to be like, oh, do over, reset. I get to use another guy.
It's very expensive stuff. Yeah. I love to work with titanium. And that's actually kind of on the JFab front, what kind of separates me from the regular welders in Kansas City, because there's actually a handful of welders in Kansas City that can probably mess with titanium. There's even slimmer that can actually do it correctly. And so when you're messing with high-end materials like that, myself separates myself from everyone else, because just the sheer fact of that, I kind of nerd out on these rare exotic metals that you can manipulate and do whatever you want with and make them look pretty and strong and stuff like that.
And that is a whole thing. So Will Clare, you can check them out, willclare.com. They do these big industrial things. But John, who's the dad of the two, and I know John and Tom, but John is like a PhD of metallurgy. He's like the guy. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what you talk about. And we spend a lot of time talking about there being riches in the niches. Mm-hmm. And, so it's weird to say that like a skill trade, like welding is a niche. And it is kind of, granted, there's a lot of welders out there, but I don't know a whole lot of them. You might, but they're in short supply. Mm-hmm. They are, just like computer programmers and a lot of other people, because we don't we're doing a better job with the technology of directing our kids through these things. But people I talk to in the construction industry are consistently voicing their not only concern, but frustration with the lack of things. Like, here's the thing. If you need a welder for some stuff, and there's not a substitute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The thing with nowadays in skilled labor and trades is most companies like myself, I have a little bit different reasons, but they are upset that they can't find someone either skilled or they can't find someone that is willing to work, that is skilled. And so that's part.
And sometimes affordability.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. And my thing is that I get at least 2 to 3 phone calls a week for people to want to be hired. And I just simply say no because I don't. It's my company, and it's my name.
Meaning
and
they want you to hire them.
Correct. And I can't afford for Jim to come in Monday and mess up $1 million job because his wife didn't make him a pork chop. I can't afford to do that. And so it is a curse in itself because I kind of stretch myself a little bit thin going that way, but it's also manageable and I can kind of cap work and control things and also hyper focus on projects that are more beneficial rather than just $1.
Gotcha. So yeah, and like like I said, there's a lot of interesting things. I think the point was, if you can find an in-demand anything and learn how to do it and do it well, I mean, the thing is like you can get work, you can make good money. And it's like, I mean, you look at like a plumber. Like, I mean, do plumbers get paid?
I have a buddy.
Like paid. Now you got to be willing to stick your arm in some shit.
Or dig a hole.
But not all plumbers do that, man. Some plumbers come in and they do a house before the pipes are filled with turds. But the thing is there's a lot of stuff that's out there and you got to wrap your arms around learning how to do it. So, by the way, you can go to stainlessfloral.com and check out the gift that you're going to send myself and Matt Watson. We only accept $250,000 roses. That's, yeah, I'm not telling you, man, people, it sounds like it's far fetched, but there's some dude in Dubai that made that much money while he was eating breakfast.
Yeah.
And he's worried that his girl is going to leave him.
I actually have a buddy.
And he's like, what can I do? He went to stainlessfloral.com and
bought all of them.
maybe. Yeah.
Bought all of them. And I gave Startup Hustle 10%. So
yeah, I'm down. So make sure to mention that you heard about that here. And yeah, whatever works. Whatever is good for you. Just make sure, just drop the name. Yeah, I think that would work. I feel like you'd be good with writing that affiliate check.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. Did you have a story that went with that?
No, I actually have a buddy that reached out to a friend of his in Dubai, and it kind of insulted me when he said this, but he's like, yeah, I sent that to my buddy in Dubai, and he just simply said it wasn't too flashy. And I was like, what? It's not flashy enough? I guess we got to just, speckle it in 24 karat gold flakes, I guess, or something.
Or
like
cover
that.
it completely in diamonds.
Or the diamond. There's a thing, diamond dust. You can powder coat diamond dust.
No, I get it. I mean, I'm saying I haven't seen the picture yet, but maybe he's got a point. Because the thing is like once you're over the top, you go all the way.
Yeah, it's all the way.
And I mean that because there is stuff I wish I could do a Robin Leach voice, here on the Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. But when you see stuff like that, I mean, it really is like it'll be something that's completely covered in Tiffany diamonds.
Yep.
And they're like, it has got 900,000 individual diamonds, but it's, I mean, maybe it's a point. Maybe you should the problem is currently you sound like you can only source about 4 of the diamonds that you need. So,
at a time. So
if
somebody were to buy all of them, then I'd be screwed because I'd be like, I don't know the diamond world.
Yeah, and buy a 2 carat. A 2 carat diamond with the clarity of a H or a I is probably like a $25,000 diamond.
38.
38. Okay. Yeah, I bet if you bought more than one, you get that price down there. Yeah.
I hope.
It's funny. I did, you talk about diamonds, and not all diamonds are the same. She will remind you of that at some point. So, back to when it comes to the startup nature of your art, what's the biggest challenge that you have?
The biggest problem with starting out on your art is honestly, for me, it's the funding. Because me as a single dad, 28 years old, just trying to provide a normal living situation for myself and my daughter, and also doing art that can, be expensive or time consuming or just a big scale. I don't think people understand that, when you do art and you see those big sculptures and stuff like that put in by a city, that stuff is very expensive. And it's usually a lot more hands than just the artist.
Yeah, to build it, to move it.
Right, move it. And
buy the stuff. So, and if you're going to put something in, I mean, you might need permits.
Yep.
needs stuff like that.
Yep. Drawings.
And like you mentioned, hands.
Yeah. Lots of hands.
And it, depending on, but something like metal that can be heavy. I mean, you might need a crane.
I actually do need one soon.
Some like weirdly heavy equipment.
Mm-hmm.
There's a documentary on Netflix. And wherever they make Legos, they built like a truly like a castle out of Legos.
Huh.
Like a real thing, but they were like showing it. And they're like, you understand you have to have people in it.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, but they had to make it out of Lego. So they're like lifting in like the equivalent of a steel girder made of Lego. It's still pretty darn heavy. And just like you said, and then the level of planning and different stuff. So, okay. And I think that, I mean, really it's sales.
Yeah.
That's the key. 'Cause I mean, if you wanted, and I've gone through this I just published a book about the music industry and wrote it with some successful musicians. And I'm not a successful musician, but I did work in the music industry. But you have to look at what you're doing as an artist. You have to accept the fact that if you want to do that as a career, it has to be a business.
Yes.
And that means you have to sell stuff. You have to make decisions that you can't spend $100 generating 50 and stuff like that. And there's a whole level and layer of planning and thoughtfulness, but the sales part's hard.
Yes.
And then the bigger you get, the coordination part of it, and like,
oh my God,
well, I mean, and like with that, like you look at a band, and if you're going to play people, it might not sound like a lot that you're going to play for 500 people. That's actually kind of a big show. Like 500 people, like you got to have a lot of shit to do that. Like there's a lot of equipment associated with that. You get up to 3,000. Now you're hauling a truck. You've got people setting up stuff. You don't see a rock star out on stage plugging in his guitar pedals 20 minutes before the show. Like that's not how that works. Like all this different stuff. And there's a whole bunch of coordination. And the thing is if you don't sell tickets, you're not going to pay the bills. You're not going to do that. It's hard. It's hard. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of stuff that gets in there. So as far as how much of your time right now are you spending on the art as opposed to the commercial side of the fabrication business?
So I would have to say I would probably say 40%.
Okay.
And the rest is JFabWorks, because the JFabWorks is kind of my day-to-day bill paying machine, and just phone ringing off the hook for it. Hey, can you fix this? Hey, can you make this? Hey, can you come out and weld this and stuff like that?
And artists like painters and stuff, they do commissions and different things like that. But that's the hard part is being able to make that leap. Make that leap to where you can do it. And I'll tell you what, man, and I'm not an artist, but I consider myself to be a creator. I've written 3 books. It's hard to schedule when you're going to do that.
Yeah.
Like for me, that was always difficult. Like, and maybe I consider myself an artist as an entrepreneur, but inspiration is hard to turn on. It is. And
can we talk about inspiration?
Yeah, sure.
Man, that's just it's there's been many of times where it's just gone, just nothing. And then some people have a hard time just stopping and taking it back and breathing and just go enjoy the sunlight and just stop hitting it so hard, and it'll come to you, because it's just, there's been many times where I'm just like no motivation, no inspiration. And then I just take a trip with a buddy, a road trip to Chicago, and we just partied up all weekend. And it clicks for me when I see someone, or I see something and I wonder how it got there and who put it there, and, what's that person's name. And then I'm just like, well, maybe I should. And then I'm back in it, and then the juices start flowing, and then I'm asking around and sending more emails and stuff like that.
So I've actually spent a lot of time researching and talking to a lot of different people on this exact topic. for a lot of different reasons. So, I do a lot of different things. It's funny. Someone asked me today, they were like, you do so much stuff. How do you keep your head above water? And I said, I just decided to grow gills instead. But there's a few things. And this is what's hard is if you have to have like a quote day job, then you have things that you're committed to. And I haven't been in that situation for a very long time. So when I feel inspired, and these come and I'm inspired to do something almost every day, but I don't know what on some days.
Okay.
So, but I've learned a couple things is to identify it and to ride it as long as I want to or can. And those are two different things, because sometimes I don't need to be inspired for 8 hours on certain things. I may choose to turn it off. It's difficult to turn on, but don't let it go. Like in my last book, I actually wrote 12,000 words in 24 hours, which is unheard of. I sent it to my editor and he actually was funny. He goes, so did you figure out the perfect combo of Adderall and coffee or something? And I was like, no, but I felt inspired. And like the thing is like, I just like opened up and let it all flow. Now here's the thing. I didn't write another word for that book for 4 months. So I don't know why, like when, why, or where, or how that happened, but I have a supporting cast, both personally and professionally that I can trust to let them know, like, hey, I'm in the zone, and they will leave me alone. And my wife did that for me that particular day. She understands that there are times when that occurs, but all three of my books I predominantly wrote overnight. Meaning like from the hours of 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., largely because things were very still. There's not a lot of distractions. It's easy to kind of get in there. But, and then, so some of the people that I've also, I know a lot of musicians that do so professionally. And
wait, so?
They're professional musicians.
Oh,
yes.
They said like they sew, like they're
no. I say like if you're a professional, like some people, you're technically a professional musician if you get paid, but I mean like that's all you do. Yeah, and you like are an adult. You're not like living in a van, like waiting for the coffee gig on Friday. Yeah. But one of which is someone I really look up to and a really good friend is Jake Seninger, who's the guitarist in a band called Humphreys McGee, play 100 shows a year, 3,000 to 9,000 people a night. He's largely regarded as one of the greatest guitar players alive right now. And he's really freaking amazing. But we have had an ongoing conversation about inspiration for a couple of years. And I'm looking forward to the next one. But because he's fascinated with myself as an entrepreneur. And I have like all these like crazy ideas that are constantly rattling around in my head. Like on many days, I wish they'd shut the fuck up and leave me alone because I can't address most of them or all of them or whatever. So there's, and like it drives me crazy. It really is like kind of noisy and cluttered up there on a lot of days, and the same goes for him. But his point is, so the thing that's fascinating is that show is going to start and he has to turn that on. He has to turn that on. And I find that to be so fascinating. So how do you get there? How do you know, like, what do you do that brings yourself to the point where, when 5,000 people, and like, there's nights where you're a little more inspired than others, but you still have to perform on this like really ridiculous level. And people come to their shows sometimes to see that part of it and other things. And that's a main attraction. So you can't blow it. Yeah. But he's just always is playing guitar and thinking about it and doing a lot of different things. And I said, well, why? And he said, because he refers to it as like massaging that part of his brain, because the closer he stays to it, the closer it is to get back to it. So he's, it's insane. And it also shows that like, you got to do something a lot to truly be a master of it. He also does other weird things too, like just to talk about being a total master of what you do. Like he'll sit in a chair and look at a guitar that's in a stand and think about everything he wants or needs to play, but from a reverse angle. And it's literally, think about that. He's literally like learning it inside and out. And does weird things like when he practices or goofs around, intentionally plays wrong notes to see where that would go next. He's looking for the note that's unplayed. Sometimes that mistake leads to that next couple steps after that is now, oh shit, I haven't gone there before. So it's like weird stuff. And like, it's like literally like
Mind blown.
Forcing failure
Mm-hmm.
in order to see what happens after. Because inherently your mind and you react to failure and different things. Like it's just like forcing change. It's just really like, I've really found that to be really interesting, and everyone has a different thing. Some people can put themselves into that zone. It's like what they're surrounded by and stuff like that. But
I think that's really interesting because a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs and creatives and artists, they're afraid to fail.
No, not me.
No, yeah. Well, that's good. That's good because
the good ones I know aren't afraid to fail. That's not. Yeah, you've shook that out of your system. Yeah, you actually want to fail in a lot of ways because the faster you fail, the closer you are to not failing.
Correct.
Just getting you have to look at it in a different way. You're like, it's like a salesperson. Like, okay, well, I just heard 8 no's. I'm that much closer to a yes.
Yes.
Just some of these things, and that's part of it.
Right, and the closer you get to that, the more easily you are to succeed, and also you just keep trying because you've reached a low point, so you can't go lower. So
there's really a thing called founder's depression. Like it's a real thing. Entrepreneurs are like statistically fucked up in the head compared to the rest of the world. Like when it comes to a lot of things, a lot of entrepreneurs are like ADHD kind of, and some of that is because that some of those traits tend more towards you're a little more likely to take risks.
Yes.
And stuff like that. For me, and I do consider myself a successful entrepreneur, but I didn't until I quit. I was like, you know what? I can always make money. I'm a good salesperson. So in the end, I can never really be broke unless there's just no economy. And then I got other problems.
Right.
We've gone Mad Max at that point. You're right. And then I'm a big guy, so maybe I'll be all right there. But, but the thing is like, but knowing in the end, and that's if you're too afraid to fly close to the sun, you'll never figure out whether or not it's a good idea or not to fly close to the sun.
Yes.
And sometimes in regards to flying close to the sun, there's that story, the wax on Icarus's wings then melted and he fell to the ground. I just think he wasn't flying fast enough. Because if you go fast enough, I think you can literally go through the sun and end up all right on the other side. But anyway, I agree. as we kind of round out this episode, by the way, this is what I love about the show, because you don't know that's, like I said, the conversational nature of things. I think that, inspiration is whether you're an artist, like be an artist at whatever it is that you want to be good at.
Mm-hmm. That's what I tell people, just to keep going.
Oh yeah.
Keep going. Cause I look up to like Kevin Hart.
Sure.
Favorite comedian. He is a overnight success, but
is not. No. Yeah, right.
Sorry. Because that 10 years of him hitting little shows, doing stupid stuff in movies. You look back on these old movies in the 90s, you're like, oh shit, that's Kevin Hart. Holy fuck. And now he's I think, one of the most top paid comedians in the world. And so,
well, he sells out arenas. Yeah. And that's that's really uncommon for comedians. Like most comedians, like the good ones will sell out 2,000-3,000 seats. They're not doing arenas.
Arenas.
Yeah. I used to be a ticket broker. I got pretty familiar with the difference between being popular and people being passionate about what you do. So like you said, and in some places like 2 nights in a row.
Yeah. 2 nights in a row. Doing a series. Yeah. That's wild as a comedian.
And his tickets aren't cheap either on top of it too. So it's like, wow, good for you.
And it's just being persistent, because no matter what it is you do, as long as you believe in it, just stay adamant about it. And then, that 5 to 10 years of you doing it, somebody will notice and you'll be in a niche, or you'll blow up.
Or if you just keep, like you mentioned, if you just keep going, sometimes success is just a matter of who's going to quit first. Like you mentioned, like your competition, like there's a level of tenacity. Now, at the same time, sometimes the best 4-letter word in your life is next. You know, like not everything is just going to be fixed by not quitting.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes quitting is actually the right choice, but then to spend more time doing something else.
And I think to help to kind of touch on a point of as far as entrepreneurship and just being an artist is what people don't really take into account is negativity. And as an entrepreneur and an artist, when you present an idea or you're doing something that is out of the norm for your social circle around you and it's just nothing but negativity, you have to distance yourself.
Oh, I remove myself from that. Ain't no one got time for that.
Yeah. And I think people nowadays don't understand that because they're so tied to their social circles and their acceptance that they're getting from those people. And, you know, I have people all the time that, hey, what do you think about this? That's a good idea. Do it.
I won't tell people that if I don't think it is, though. I'm being serious. But I don't offer that advice unless asked.
Okay.
If you say, hey, man, because I get that a lot, dude. Like, hey, I'd love to run this by you. Would you take a look at this? I'd love your feedback, so on and so forth. Now, the thing is I tell them, I say, look, you can't be mad at me if I don't tell you what you don't want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to argue with you
Mm-hmm.
about whether I'm wrong. And like, if I don't like it, I'm not going to sit here and fucking argue with you about why you're right and I'm not. You ask for an opinion, I'm going to give it to you. I don't feel like having a debate after. So
what's the most craziest idea you've ever that's been presented to you?
Oh man, like the craziest or what was like that depends. Like
somebody came to you and they're like, hey man, I want to run this by you and listen. You're like, all right, sure. Fuck. I
had
seconds.
A dude give me approach me after I gave a speech and he goes, hey man, I want to tell you about a business idea I have. I'm going to take down Amazon. and I said, dude, I don't have time. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, you don't want to hear it? And I was like, no, I really don't. And he said, why? And I said, cause you don't have a shot
at all.
Dude, someone had a fucking sex tape of Jeff Bezos and he's still around, man. He like literally is still the richest dude in the world. You're not going to do it.
Did.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, but there's certain things like, I mean, I say like the craziest and I'm not going to call a bunch of people out, but that particular approach right there, like you don't have a chance, man. Like,
yeah,
I'm sorry. Some things get too big that like, I mean, and by the way, that person approaching me wasn't Google.
Right.
You know, because it's just the reality is like that'd be very difficult and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. I run into a lot of different things. I think the thing that if you're going to ask someone for their opinion and it's someone whose opinion you value, I think it's important to come proper. And I think the thing that it's not necessarily about crazy ideas, it's more about crazy approaches. Like I've had people like give me business plans for the .com they want to start. And then on the cover page of the plan, it's like, contact me at yahoo.com. I'm like, you can't even, you got like that shit right there will make me throw it in the trash. Yes. I'm like, if that's page one, I feel comfortable that the rest of it's going to suck. And but it's true. Like, you know, that's the thing. And I'm not saying there's no highbrowness in that, but like for real, like you're pitching a .com, like if you can't make an email
right
at the domain that you're pitching someone on, like you are not the right person to run this.
I'm going to ask you a personal question.
Sure. Okay.
Do you judge people on their emails?
Like the ones they send me?
No. So not the email itself, like their email handle. So like if you get an email from someone, it's like from Yahoo or Gmail or anything like that, do you just like in your head be like, man, this guy's living in the 90s?
If you have an AOL one.
Okay.
For sure. And when you say judge, like you know what, I notice it on some levels, but I mean, the overwhelming majority, like almost all of my email correspondence is with people that have, you know, you're referring to webmail.
Yeah.
Addresses. I mean, I'm not going to email you back if you're like sporty balls at Gmail.
No.
I mean, but like that. But the thing is, and it depends. Like, it depends. Like if you're wanting to be on the podcast and you're pitching me about your startup and you're sending me a Gmail, I'm thinking the same thing I just mentioned. I'm like, you should have an email at the domain that you're at, or just some different stuff like that. And it depends on what you do. Like I might not do that for you because you're in the metal fabrication business. I don't expect you to be like a tech star.
Yeah.
But the whole point is not that hard to make an email.
I agree.
It's
I
not,
agree.
but
Just curious.
yeah. And then some of it, but yeah, I think some people are a little smarter about that. I do. Now that you bring it up, I do kind of look at it. I'm like, wow, so Hotmail is still a thing. I'm like, for real, Hotmail is still a thing.
Yes.
Same with Yahoo and AOL. I'm like,
Yahoo
I mean,
is the one that really gets me. I'm like, Jesus
AOL is the
Christ.
big one. My dad still has an AOL account. And, hey, it kind of shows the stickiness of certain things because it like you still pay for that.
Yeah.
You're like subscribing to your email address
Yeah.
for like probably like $10-20 a month,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy because everything is free everywhere. Well, anyway, Jay, thank you for coming by. We got away from the subject of art startups, and but that's not a problem because that was entertaining. If you want to learn more about what Jay does, you can actually go to JFabWorks. That's WERKS. If you need help with metal fabrication, or go to stainlessfloral.com where you can begin the process of purchasing me a $250,000 rose.
I do have cheaper options just for everyone listening.
No,
They
I
are
don't want
cheaper
them.
options.
I don't want, if you're buying it for me, go big or go home. If you want to learn more about what we do at Full Scale, go to fullscale.io. Check out the podcast on @Startup Hustle Podcast on Instagram, and make sure to stop by the Startup Hustle YouTube channel so you can check out my talking head. See you next time.